Hello and welcome to this week's IG Live. Today I'm excited to be talking to Nydia Armendia Sánchez, and we're going to be talking about her brand new book, which is going to debut on October 1st, and that's not far from here. And I'm excited to be talking to her about that, and also in general about the importance of storytelling in families, why we need a book like this about immigration. We're going to be talking about some of the themes in the book. We are here every Thursday, usually at 2 o'clock Eastern, that's 11 o'clock Pacific. Although every once in a while we might have to adjust that time for our guests, so keep an eye out for the notices, but we're usually here every Thursday. And we like to talk to the movers and the shakers in the world of diverse children's literature, and that's also books. We also cover books for teens and older kids, so be sure to watch out for that and see some years we're celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month. So we're going to be talking again to Nydia Armendia Sánchez. And if you have any suggestions, if you would like to see interviewed, please let us know. And we have an entire archive of interviews that you can see on our Instagram or on our YouTube channel. Or if you prefer an alphabetized list, you can go to our website and find that we have a brand new website that you can check out. Our sponsorships are open, so any authors or publishers who are looking to get some great exposure to an audience, who's looking for diverse books, be sure to check that out. Nydia, it's so nice to talk with you. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me, Leanna. Hi, everybody.
Well, why don't we go ahead and you can introduce yourself and tell us what was your journey to becoming an author?
Okay, so yeah, I didn't really know that that's what I wanted to be. As a child, I loved art, and so I thought I would become an artist, but life takes you, on different paths. And after having kids, I started to look in bookstores, and I just wasn't finding stories that I felt like my kids could identify with. And so it really just began as, writing stories for my kids, kind of incorporating, Spanish and English, and just stories about our family. And then just a little bit before the pandemic, it was actually, I think, March 9th, 2020, I took a course at UCLA Extension on picture book writing. And after that, I just kind of fell in love with it. And I thought, let me see what more there is to this, and went down the research rabbit hole as I usually do, and just went online and, really looking at what were my options. Could I take courses, reading through blogs and things like that, and just kind of decided to dive in head first and try it out. So I started writing quite a bit. Of course, it was 2020, so we're all at home anyway. And I wrote about 3 manuscripts during that time, and applied to the Sustainable Arts Foundation. At that time, they had an award for parent artists, and I actually won, and so that was amazing. I submitted the 3 manuscripts, 2 of which are actually going to be published. So that was amazing. It just gave me validation, that I could possibly, try to do this. And then just went about cold querying, found my agent, and, the rest, as they say, is history. And have a few books, set to be published. So
yeah, and I want to make sure that we talk about your other book coming out at the end, but of course, Not Far From Here is coming out in just a few weeks. I think October 1st. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly.
So tell us all about this book and what was the inspiration behind it.
Yeah, so in this book, Mama tells her children a story about their papa and, his childhood, and how he grew up not far from here. Their hardworking abuelitas told stories of their ancestors, and their abuelo, who was a blacksmith, taught Papa how to make art from earth and fire. When abuelo dies, Papa takes all those lessons to heart, and he crosses la frontera, al norte, to the north. And, there he forges his own family and creates, a future for himself and his family. So it is largely inspired by my own family story. It started off as a love letter to my kids, just kind of sharing a little bit about their heritage. And in fact, it was written as a letter because, I knew nothing about picture book writing. So then it morphed into obviously what it is now, which is something that is a lot more lyrical and, definitely has that that picture book format that's necessary. So.
And one thing that I really loved about doing this interview now is because, of course, we know the topic of immigration is so politicized. And here we have this story that really pulls at the threads of migration journeys along with hope, love, family, community. Why are stories like this so important?
Yeah, I think, mostly it's about conveying understanding and humanity. Um, and, although at this time there's all this awful rhetoric about immigration, I feel like immigration has always been kind of at the forefront of politics. And I think being first gen, you're maybe more heightened or, more aware about that. My whole family having immigrated on both sides. So I feel, or I hope that it's a timeless book, because when I wrote it, I really realized, this is a book that I wish my parents had read. And it's a book that I wish I had also read, when I was young. But of course, these stories were not being published at the time. And hoping that, yeah, future generations get to see themselves in books, see their families in this book, and, be able to share it. And hopefully it'll spark conversations with their own families.
And you just got a really nice comment saying, I love Nydia's new books. And another person saying, yes, I needed a book like this. I'm sure a lot of people feel that way. And this book really shows how family stories are carried from one generation to another, or they're carried from one country to another. What role does storytelling play in the life of this family?
Yeah, for this family, I think it helps build your sense of self, especially for the kids. But I think even when you're older, learning about your heritage and where your ancestors came from, it really helps you create that sense of self. And, when you're young, you start like pulling these threads, right? And you start storing anecdotes and images and the stories in your mind. And, some of them are positive, some of them are not so positive, but still, right, that forms, the fabric of who you are. And I think it's important to know that, and to learn from your past, and then also help you, as you're moving forward into the future, just kind of ask questions. Yeah.
I think it's really interesting how in the book, you know, I would imagine for a family that's having to move such great distance, well, maybe not so great, it's not far from here, but having to move to a different country, that there might be a sense of uprootedness or disconnection, and yet these stories really help maintain that connection and give children a kind of a sense of continuity and sense of their family and the culture. And another theme of the book is the importance of hard work and perseverance. We really see that throughout the book. What do you hope that kids take away from when they're reading this book about the idea of persistence and perseverance?
Yeah, we're definitely in like instant gratification society, right? Where we all have short attention spans due to, technology, social media. Sorry, Instagram, we love you, but true. And so I hope that it just gives them pause to know that, things aren't achieved right away. And they require patience and persistence and time, and, just have a little bit of patience for things. And some things come later. Some things don't come at all, but, you can try new things. So yeah, hopefully it just teaches them, not teaches them, but makes makes them aware.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And another theme I think is about belonging and how we maintain connections to loved ones who are far away at the same time as you see this family creating found family in their new home. So how do you think that affects somebody? You know, we talked about forming identity through stories. How do you think it affects a sense of belonging when you have to be so intentional about creating and maintaining these connections? You have to, like the family is so purposeful in how they're doing this. How do you think that affects their sense of belonging?
Yeah, I mean, I think it can only help, right? Because when you feel like you belong, you feel safe, you feel comfort, it helps your mental health. Um, just knowing that gives, knowing that you have support from your friends, family, and community, again, also creates, that further sense of self by giving you purpose and meaning. And not everyone has family support. I myself have, family that have detached from us. And sometimes it's important to find that found family, whether that's friends, a church group, a school group, finding your tribe. I found a lot of support in other authors, on this journey.
Right.
So, yeah, that's really important. And I think it's something that we all want.
Right, definitely. And I think I love that that was such an important part of the book. And something else that really struck me, and you kind of mentioned this at the beginning when you were talking about the books that you were looking for your own kids, was about is the fact that it's a bilingual book.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of Spanish words and phrases that are mixed into the story, and you do have definitions at the back, but you've described this book as having a translingual text, which I thought was really interesting. I wanted to kind of explore that more. What does that mean exactly to have a translingual text, and why did you make that decision?
Yeah. So in college, I took several classes on bilingualism, linguistics, language, and at the time it was called code switching.
Right.
When you're speaking in terms of Spanish English, there's the term Spanglish, but essentially it's another term for code switching, and it's basically when more than one language is interspersed within text or speech, producing multilingual text or speech. So it's really kind of the way that we speak in my household. In our house, it's Spanish and English. So it's just, I mean, ever since I've known my husband, we would speak that way with each other. And then now with our kids, I mean, we do it like every day.
Right.
And, just depends, like when you're choosing certain words, you want them maybe to convey a different meaning. You might choose Spanish over English, or you might just mix them up, within the same sentence. But ultimately, it was about showing that there is value in diversity in having these languages, side by side. And it can be of great help too when communicating with, grandparents or aunts and uncles or, older family members. And just to show that it's okay, like it's okay to do that. Your linguistic journey might not look like that of your parent, but it's yours, and everyone's is different, and language is so fluid. And so mainly I wanted to show that it's okay, and that ability is a powerful one.
Right. I I think that's really great because I feel like a lot of times Spanglish specifically, or just any time that we hear kids or people using more than one language in their speech, well, I want to say when they're mixed together, but mixed is not really the right way to say it. But like you said, when they're using more than one language, I think people worry that that the kids are getting mixed up, or that there's some kind of confusion, or they don't know the word in both languages. So you seem to be saying that's not really what's happening here, right?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of studies show that the ability to do that is because you do dominate both languages. So, you are able to, make those transitions. But it's also been, like institutionalized. Like I remember being young and my parents, really pushing me like Spanish, Spanish, and like don't mix it up, and you're gonna ruin the language, and
Right.
things like that. So I think it's a lot about just learning that there are other possibilities, and yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, and I love that you did it in this book because in a way that kind of helps normalize this kind of translingual speech that of kids going like you said. I mean, if they know both languages well, then they can
Yeah,
choose, and a lot of times not even consciously, which word is going to be most appropriate in this situation.
yeah.
Well, and I wanted to leave time to talk about your other book coming out. Can you tell us about that and when we can look for it?
Yes, so I have Frida Kahlo's Flower Crown. That will be out April 1st of next year with Abrams Young Readers. And it just follows Frida as she grows and has this wonderful connection with nature. And it talks about all the native flora and other flora that she had in her garden and how she comes to create her flower crown. And so it's beautifully illustrated by Lora. Um, and it will have a lovely illustrated botanical guide in the back, and then a find and seek feature for the kids to go back into the book and find all the flora and cactus and everything throughout the book.
I
So
love
it's
that attention to detail, that it's not just about flowers, but it's about very specific ones. And why did you choose to do a book about Frida Kahlo?
For me, she was that one figure when I was a kid who was Latine, who was female, who was an artist. And of course, I loved to draw and things when I was little. So I've just always, found her so beautiful and intriguing, and her art, just so interesting ever since I was little. So it was kind of a lifelong obsession that culminated in the writing of this book. So.
Oh, well, it sounds lovely. And do you have other things in the work? Do you think you'll stay in the space of picture books or?
Yeah, I actually have another one coming out in 2026 called My Huipil, and it's about the art of Guatemalan indigenous weaving and the meaning behind some of the symbols in the huipil, which is the top garment of their traje. So it explores that because that is, I'm Guatemalan and part of my heritage, so it's exploring that. And then I have one more unannounced book that I can't talk about, but also a picture book.
Oh, amazing. I just want to read, you also have another comment. The Frida Kahlo book is gorgeous too. So excited for Nydia's books. Yes, us too. So we look forward to the ones that are coming out. And again, for anybody who missed it, the Not Far From Here is coming out October 1st. And then Frida Kahlo's, I'm sorry if I don't remember the name. Is it Frida Kahlo's Crown?
Flower Crown, yeah.
Flower Crown is coming out in April. So thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us today.
Thank you, Leanna. It was lovely talking to you.
And for anybody who's joining us late, this will be up in just a few minutes on Instagram and later on our YouTube channel. Thanks, everybody.
Hey, bye.